Welcome to the GHT Overland podcast, where we visit with overland travelers and explorers around the globe, learning from their experiences and enjoying their stories. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lisa. We are from a little city called Washougal in Washington State, known as the entrance to the Columbia River Gorge. Today's featured guests are Matt, Gary, and Tina with Just Escape. Matt and Gary have known each other for 26 years, going back to their school days. Tina joins in on their overland travels with two renovated 10-ton military trucks. The trio decided there must be more to life than working in an office, and it was time to go start living. To escape the 9-to-5, sitting in traffic, and paying bills. So from their home in South England, Matt, Gary, and Tina are getting ready to depart the UK and head east for an 18-month overlanding trip to Mongolia before heading back home, with a 2-year Africa trip to follow.
Oh, that was a mouthful. So, without further ado, welcome to the podcast, guys.
Hiya.
Hi.
Thank you.
So, fill us in on any blanks on that intro, along with a little more detail about what inspired you to quit your jobs and renovate these two beautiful 10-ton military trucks.
Well, I think going overland has been a dream of mine since I was in my teens. So Gary and I started to plan a trip about 10 years ago, which never happened because life generally gets in the way. And so it was about 3 years ago we decided to really get on with it.
We've been adventuring, let's say, doing outdoor pursuits for years and years and years. And when you've got a full-time job and you go away for a week, you go away for 2 weeks and you do, I don't know, things we've done, kayaking, climbing, canoeing, all the outdoor pursuits, you can only satisfy that thirst for so long. And it kind of got to the point where we were taking the breaks from work and we weren't satisfied with going back to work. And it got to the point where, okay, what's next? And that's how we kind of got into the extended travel equation. And we did originally look at maybe going by sea, and then we went and spoke to some other overlanders at a show, and that's when we really made the decision that overland travel was for us.
Okay, great. And how long was the renovation process for your trucks?
Right, well, the planning process to decide what vehicle we were going to be getting took about 6-9 months-ish. And then May 2016, by that time we'd already decided that we were going to go with the Layland D.A.F. And we had 2 Layland D.A.Fs delivered. And it's taken us almost 2 years to the day to get the trucks transformed into the expedition vehicles that they are now.
I think a really key point with that as well is we were very lucky in that we had a good sized facility to build them in that was weatherproof, but we haven't taken our foot off the accelerator in 2 years. There's been no breaks, there's been no holidays, and it's actually, when we go back and look at it, has equated to about 50 hours a week every week for the three of us for 2 years.
Oh, wow. So that's quite a bit.
It's a lot because we realise that it's actually a bit of a double-edged sword having the old military vehicle, because it's a conversion into a living facility, but it's also a renovation or a restoration from an old vehicle, because it is 25 years old. Things weren't necessarily as easy in the build as it would have been on a newer vehicle. Plus there was the treatment of rust and paint and all these other bits and bobs, and bring it up to a slightly more modern standard with things like soundproofing and extra features in the driving area.
So getting parts and that sort of thing as you went through that process, was that a challenge for you as well?
Parts aren't too bad, actually. There's quite a big following for these vehicles, and there's still a lot of parts available. And having the Cummins engine, there are parts available worldwide, which is one of the reasons we chose this vehicle.
Did you build each truck identical, or is each one built for a specific purpose?
They've been built on our own taste. So I have Matilda, Gary and Tina have Puddles. And from the outside, they do look very similar, but inside they are totally different, based on our own taste.
I think the technical specification of them is almost identical, if not very, very similar. And when I say the technical specification, ignoring the original vehicle chassis and engine, we're talking the systems on board with the heating systems, water systems, etc., etc. They're all pretty much identical. We'll bar a few differences, but in terms of the layout, aesthetics, and a little bit of the, let's say, living functionality of them, it's fascinating at how different two vehicles have actually turned out.
Okay, and did I get that right? One is Puddles and the other is Matilda?
That's correct,
That's
yes.
correct, yes.
That's very
Love
good.
it.
Awesome, very good.
She's called Puddles because of within a few weeks of her being delivered, she leaked all of the diesel out on the floor and then refused to start again until I replaced all the perished fuel lines on it. So she got nickly named Puddles, and it's just stuck ever since.
That's great. She was a bad girl.
It's quite appropriate.
Yeah, she was a very bad girl. And yeah, it's stuck ever since. And Matilda is called Matilda because why, Matt?
Well, in Aboriginal, Matilda means a small collection of personal belongings, which I quite liked.
Oh, okay.
It's nothing, but it's not a small collection of personal belongings, though. It's huge.
Have any of you embarked on a trip like this before?
Nothing so big. I think the longest we've done is probably 2 weeks kayaking around the Croatian islands for me and Gary.
We're all relatively well travelled in many different ways, from quite often around outdoor pursuits. Tina's a very accomplished scuba diver, so is Matt, but there's other pursuits that we've done, kayaking, canoeing. So that's led us to travel, but we've never travelled for such extended periods of time, and none of us have experienced overland travel.
So this will be pretty exciting for you.
Yeah, we're all quite excited.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Any more details on the trucks, like creature comforts you've built in, or anything that would make your living conditions more comfortable and enjoyable during your trip?
One of the things to take on board here is that we haven't actually just built the expedition trucks. These are our homes. So from our point of view, they have all the creature comforts that we felt that we couldn't live without. You know, we both have got large double beds and
permanently mounted
double beds. We have seating area, which is a dining area. We have kitchen facilities. Both trucks have a washing machine. We have a toilet and a shower. Both have a fridge or a freezer. There isn't anything in this truck which I consider my home. It is my home. There's nothing in here that I'm lacking.
We went to a lot of effort as well to ensure that they had a homely feel. A lot of vehicles that we've looked at, while very functional and quite often to maintain a lighter weight than we are, around the 7.5 tons, opposed to us where we're more around the 8.5, 9 tons. They have a very kind of sterile, plasticky, kind of white feel to them, and we've gone into a lot of effort to make these feel like home. So both of these vehicles have a lot of natural woods and bright colours and things like that, which makes them
nice.
stand out quite a lot.
Okay, cool. Another question we ask for most of our interviews is there a piece of gear that you originally packed and removed? Now, you guys haven't left on your trip yet. Is there anything that you anticipate that might be the first to go?
We packed up. So we moved out of our house about 8 months ago and moved into the truck full time despite it not being finished.
Oh, okay.
And we brought an awful lot of stuff with us. And we've only been sort of in the build area or driving to see friends and family over a couple of 100 miles. But we are still refining a lot of the things that we have got with us. I think the one thing that we've taken out the most isn't anything functional in the truck as much, but more of outdoor pursuits equipment. Some of that's gone. Some of the number of the outdoor pursuits, things like some of our scuba diving gear has gone for me and Tina. So we're continually refining the extras that we have to the vehicle. But as yet, we haven't made any major changes to the vehicle.
I had a dive compressor on board Matilda, which I took out in the end due to changes in the routes. But that could always come back if the route. Well, once we go to Africa, that might possibly come back.
And I think that's a big thing. I think our route out through Asia does lead us to be slightly differently loaded to when we go back through Africa. So that was part of the thought process behind the two-pronged route approach, is we can come back, service the vehicles in the UK, and then restock on the other things that we have possibly left behind now, things like kayaks and diving equipment, etc., etc.
Okay, sounds pretty smart. Any gear or equipment that you've put on either of the trucks, or maybe even both of the trucks, that you're anticipating to be something you just could not go without?
At the moment, one of the things that I quite like is I'm using the Garmin InReach Explorer, which is the GPS unit and satellite messenger. Part of the reason for us fitting that is being an old vehicle. Our speedo doesn't actually work on the vehicle, so we've used the new GPS system to replace that because it's easier to, instead of sourcing parts. But that gives us a live map of where the vehicle is and communications with family and friends. And it's not so much from our point of view that we're worried about personal safety and security. That should always be on everybody's mind, but it gives reassurance to our family that are at home that they can at any time log on to a map, see where we are, send us a message. So, and we use that through the UK every day now because it's an integral part of operating the vehicle. It's on all the time. So at the moment for myself and Tina and Puddles, that's been very valuable for us.
Okay, very good.
What destinations are each of you looking forward to most?
For me, I think it's Mongolia. It's always been a dream to cross the Gobi, see the deserts and the camels there, which I understand are quite rare.
I'm really looking forward to Russia, and I don't mean so much the western side of Russia, but eastern Russia, because I'm fascinated by the whole culture and such a huge country and how it can be governed as a country with such different cultures and landscapes and the vastness of it. So I'm really looking forward. So we will see Western Russia, and then we'll be able to compare that to the very far eastern part of Russia. So for myself, I'm really looking forward to that Russian part of it. Tina?
For me, it's both of what you've said. It's everywhere. It's all going to be different, and it's just, it would be hard to pick one specific thing that I'm interested in. I'm just interested in meeting the new people and just enjoying what's out there rather than what's on my doorstep.
Yeah.
I think I'm just looking forward to wild places, really, where people aren't.
I think
big open spaces.
I think as a collective of three of us, I think that's very important. We are not, while we want to meet people, we're not particularly rushing to any of the big cities apart from when we have to for visa requirements. We are very much looking forward to the remoteness and the wilderness, because in the UK that's something that we kind of lack a lot. All of our land is owned by somebody, and we have quite a high population in a small area. So for us, that's one of the things that we're really looking forward to. It's just that openness and remoteness.
The trucks were built for those long extended periods of being alone, weren't they? So large water supplies. We can pick water up from a muddy puddle and purify it. So the truck's always designed around being alone and travelling.
And the design brief that we'd set ourselves from the very onset is that we should be, as a bare minimum, self-sufficient in the vehicles for 4 weeks, but ideally to 6 weeks. And we believe that, as Matt says, we've achieved that with our onboard water purification systems, water storage and food stores, and again, fuel in terms of both diesel and gas supplies for cooking. That we do have that 6 weeks ability to be self-sustainable.
Okay, cool.
So with your vehicles being your living space, it sounds like you have a pretty intense kitchen setup. What are some of the brands that you're using?
So interestingly, because we've got a reasonable amount of space, and more importantly for us is we've got the weight. You find a lot of people when building a vehicle can reach the legal weight limits very quickly. Because we have that, we've actually gone for a lot of domestic equipment. So kitchen cupboards are actually from, in both vehicles are from IKEA. The sinks and tap systems are the same, and then they're domestic gas hobs. So there's nothing I would say in our kitchen setup that is significantly bespoke.
I've got a fridge freezer, but I couldn't actually tell what the brand is. I'm sorry. It's a beautiful piece of equipment. It's actually from a yacht, but I couldn't tell you the brand. Sorry.
So we've gone for a slightly different approach, and I may pay the price. I accept that. We've gone and we run a domestic freezer, which I've changed the thermostat so it runs as a fridge. So it only runs for about an hour and a half to 2 hours a day, and maintains the temperature inside at a fridge temperature. So for that, I get, I think, 120 litres of storage for a high street price of about it was about £90. But whether that's going to stand up to the vibrations and rigours of on the road, I'll let you know.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah. Well, part of my thought process behind it was because if it is a standard size, if it fails, I can just go into any city and pick up another unit, pull one out and drop another one in. It's completely interchangeable at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah,
nice.
Pretty smart. So who's going to be the chef? Is there one person between the three of you, or does each truck have its own chef?
Tina.
Sounds like you got volunteered.
No, that's not true. Each truck will have their own chef, but we all like cooking.
I don't.
You don't, but you do it out of necessity.
Yeah, I have to do it.
You can cook, and you're a decent cook as well.
We have quite different tastes. Myself and Tina both exist on plant-based diets. Matt's more of a meat eater himself, so that's kind of where the divide in cooking possibly comes from, really.
I can just eat large bits of meat, and I'm happy.
So, yeah, there's quite a divide, really. If Matt could let us cook for him every day, he would do, but there's not enough meat involved in our cooking for him.
Nice. What are some favorite meals you plan to cook during your travels?
One of the things we're looking forward to is actually having local ingredients and local produce, and not necessarily all the farmed and the food that's got full of, I guess, pesticides and
hormones and intensive farming measures. You're looking forward to getting away from having meat produce that hasn't been subjected to those intensive farming processes.
Yes.
Myself and Tina, obviously existing on the plant-based side, we've gone out of our way to fill up a lot on base ingredients because we are relatively good cooks and we do enjoy cooking. So we are carrying a lot of herbs and spices and things like that, and we make a lot of curries and Thai dishes and Chinese dishes based on fresh local produce plus the base ingredients that we carry.
But I'm looking forward to being able to pick up influences from wherever it is that we're travelling, so that we can try different food or, just indulge that way. But if that doesn't work out, we've still got our stock bases. We'll still come back to a good old-fashioned bolognese or a pasta dish or a Thai green curry, or failing that, bangers and mash.
Yeah, one thing that we hear sometimes is people do exactly what you're planning on doing, which is getting the local ingredients and then planning a meal from that, opposed to planning what they're used to eating and then trying to find everything that fits that. So I think that'll be pretty exciting for you.
Yeah, I mean, because of where we're traveling, we're leaving into to go into the Ukraine and Russia, where when it comes to buying produce, we're really going to struggle because we don't speak the language, but any of the language, but obviously we can't read them either. So it really is a case of going out, buying a little bit of hoping for the best, buying fresh and making it up as we go. I
think buying from local restaurants and cafes whenever possible, because that's always the best way to do it. It's so cheap, and you meet people, and the food's great, and I don't like cooking. So.
That's a good plan.
There's a different theme here, isn't there?
There's going to be one that's got to get a clean kitchen.
Yeah. That's the truth.
Have you thought about that resupplying process? Are you going to be going to larger supermarkets, Or are you thinking about going to, I don't know if you're in a small town, like a farm to get eggs, or have you thought about that process?
I think it will be both. As I say, I think the base ingredients we will kind of stock up from a large supermarket infrequently, and then we will top up more frequently with the locally sourced fresh produce.
I think it will be a case of we stop where we won't change our route to go somewhere, but when we find something, we'll go there no matter what it is.
Yeah, more of a buy when we can, not when we need to approach, because if we don't want to be sort of planning to each supermarket and having a world tour of shopping destinations.
Have you guys set a budget? Like, is it a weekly or a monthly at all?
This is the point we should probably say yes. Short answer, no. It's such a hard thing to do. We did a long time ago sit down and try and go through it. The problem is we thought that this build was going to be done within 12 months. And as we said earlier, it's taken us 24 months. So a lot of the early planning, we need to really revisit somewhat quickly and we're trying to establish where we are.
And how will you do your laundry again on the road?
So we've both got very small camping type washing machines on board, which are electric. So there's no work involved. You just fill it up with water and put your clothes in.
They're 240 volt washing machines. Yeah. So we've got inverters on board, 440 amp hours of batteries and 780 watt of solar. So in terms of power, we don't really struggle. So as Matt says, we have domestic washing machines.
Their size is limiting though, so it can take quite a few loads to get a week's washing done.
It's quite a long process. I mean, to do a week's worth of washing for myself and Tina can be almost half a day.
And they use quite a lot of water still, so I think it will be a process you do when water is abundant.
Yes, I agree with you. So as we mentioned earlier, we have quite a sophisticated water purification system on board and external as well as internal water pumps, so we can pump from any water source and have good, clean drinking water. So as Matt says, that washing process will probably be carried out at the same point when we have a fill up with water supplies.
And do you have a full bathroom and shower?
We do, yes.
Yes, both vehicles do. They use cassette toilets opposed to using a black tank just because of it's easier to manage. And then they're both wet rooms with showers in them, but no additional sinks in them.
And what do you think your biggest challenges are going to be during your trip?
I think, despite having two vehicles, I think we are big vehicles, we are heavy vehicles. So I think some of the biggest challenges will be the wet driving conditions that we're likely to find through parts of Russia. I think in the deserts and things of Kazakhstan and Mongolia, we'll probably be all right. But it's the northern parts of Russia and up into Siberia, when that's very wet and we are, as I say, we are heavy. I think that's going to be some of our biggest challenges.
And have you planned for that with recovery gear, or what's your plan to make sure that you don't end up in a big ditch somewhere?
We carry in waffle boards. So we've got 4 waffle boards on board and some long and large tow straps, but no winches.
We have hand winches, so we use a standard high lift jack, which we would have to use 2 to winch a single vehicle because of the load rating on them. We hope that's going to be enough. It's very difficult to tell because our experience of these vehicles off-road is limited. We have taken them out for a test, an operational test in the UK, and they performed very well, but the conditions were somewhat favourable.
We're going to take the cautious approach of airing down and walking the route and making good decisions, I think.
I think preemptive on opposed to being sort of a little bit gung-ho about it. I think we'd be a bit more preemptive on our route choices and the driving conditions.
Tell us about how you've planned for your trip pertaining the routes you're going to go. Anything specific that really stands out that may help our listeners when they think about where they're going to go, the trips they're going to do, and how they should plan that out?
When we first started out, we thought we had this big dreamy idea we could pretty much go anywhere and do anything. And it's not until you start looking at the visa requirements and the length of stay that we realised that we were driven very much as to where we could go, and then also by cost as well. I mean, the cost to drive across China is, for a 30-day period, is in the region of £3,500, which is for us, that's not good value for money. So what we've now done is we've worked out how far we've had to drive a day. So we've decided that we've set a 50 miles a day distance. That's to give us plenty of time to do. Sorry, that's average. So we've got plenty of time to do the other things that we want. And then we've worked out how far we can get across a country based on its length of visa and 50 miles a day. So what we've essentially done is planned entrance points and exit points in each country, but then we haven't planned a route within the country. We will go as we feel suitable at the time.
Okay. Any particular software, or are you using paper maps?
So at the moment, we've got two things. We're going to use Maps.me, which is an application suitable for our phones for digital mapping. The nice thing about Maps.me is you can download those maps onto your phone and have them, so you don't need a data connection. But once we start moving into the more remote areas of Central Asia and Russia, we do have paper maps for all of that as well.
Okay, very good.
So when you took your vehicles out on a preliminary short trip, were there anything that you changed from that? Any issues you came across that you learned from?
Tina, there's a story here you can tell, can't you?
Which story is this?
Oh, this is we took the trucks off-roading. We went for a what's it called?
Salisbury Plain. It's the UK British Army training area, so it's a huge space for off-road driving.
That's it, off-road, yeah. So we thought that we would take them for a shakedown. I was quite adamant that I wanted to take my crockery with us when we go overlanding. And I thought that it was all nicely stacked in the drawers in the kitchen, and we had locks on the drawers. But during the shakedown, the front of the drawer had managed to shake itself off through the force, and I think I was left with a handful of glasses and maybe 1.5 plates.
Out of a dinner set for four, there wasn't an awful lot left, and we'd stopped at lunchtime and opened the door, and it was just smashed everywhere.
Yes.
Whoops. Glad they took that for a shakedown trip.
For sure.
All her crockery broke.
I know. I kind of want to buy her some new one.
Gary, Tina, and Matt are the perfect examples of seeing your dreams through, willing to put in the work, and doing whatever it took. It was a lot of fun talking with them from the UK.
Absolutely.
Different accents. It was fun.
Yeah.
Because crockery, I had no idea what that was. I mean, you could figure it out, but
yeah,
totally different. We would just say dishes.
Right.
And they probably think that's really weird.
Our interview with Gary, Tina, and Matt with Just Escape is our standard 2-part episode for your downloading pleasure. Don't worry, new episodes are released each Thursday.
In next week's episode, we talk about planning, navigation, and communication. We'll also talk about vehicle maintenance and repair, plus all the finer details of their overall setups with both Puddles and Matilda. That was fun to learn about. I love the names of vehicles.
They're awesome.
They're two 25-year-old British military 10-ton trucks.
They just sound very beastie.
They look beastie. They look very cool.
They're
You need to
huge.
run over to the show notes or social media and check out the pictures because they're super cool. And the interior is extremely well done.
Yeah, customized.
Yeah, it doesn't look military anymore.
No, it doesn't. It's a good idea to visit the show notes page on our website at ghteverland.com. Click on podcasts, then select the Just Escape episode. All the details and helpful links in this episode are already there for you.
Be sure to send your questions, suggestions, or feedback to ghteverlandpodcast@gmail.com. If you have an Amazon Echo, be sure to tell Alexa, play the GHT Overland podcast, and turn it up. For some reason, it's playing really quiet. I haven't figured that out. Sorry. You can also add the GHT Overland skill to your news briefings.
That's pretty cool. You know what would be delicious?
Apple crisp.
Well, true, but I want more than just apples. If you have the perfect Overlander recipe, something quick, easy, and delicious, or something that you think is worth any extra effort for special meals on the road, send them to ghtOverlandpodcast@gmail.com. Include your information, the name of the recipe, and a picture. If I can make it and Chris likes it, I will personally make sure you and your recipe are highlighted on our website for other Overlanders to enjoy. Now, before you race off, it would mean the world to us, and I mean the entire overlanding globe, if you'd share the podcast, subscribe, rate, and review us. Give GHT Overland some love so we can reach as many Overlanders as possible, passing on priceless experience, knowledge, and stories of Overlanders doing good in the world. Thank you, and we will see you next Thursday, over on Part 2. What are you waiting for? Go give us some podcast love with a subscribe, rate, and review. Bye.